Someone in your camp is about to eat the wrong root, and you are the only person here who knows it. You are the cook. That makes you the last line of defense between your entire group and a mistake that ends in someone's organs shutting down over the next 6 hours. No pressure. Accept all of it. Here's the job nobody warns you about when you get handed this role. Being a Stone Age chef isn't about taste. It's about triage. Every plant, every root, every questionable piece of meat that comes through your hands gets a single yes or no verdict, and you don't get to be wrong twice. 4 chapters. What's actually on the menu, what's trying to kill you disguised as food, how you cook any of it without a pot, pan, or oven, and the dish you're building at the end of all of it. If you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel. Have you ever wondered what it actually took to feed a group of people with 0 tools, 0 labels, and 0 margin for error? You're about to find out. Starting now. Before this video starts, quick thing. Everything we talk about on this channel, the fire, the foraging, the survival tactics, the knowledge that kept ancient humans alive for thousands of years. Someone actually wrote all of it down. It's called the Primitive Survival Bible, and it covers exactly how to identify, prepare, and survive on what the land actually gives you. No modern shortcuts required. Essential for everyone. Link in the description if you're interested. Let's begin. Forget the mammoth steak. That's the first thing you learn on this job, and it's the thing everyone gets wrong before they even start. Isotope analysis on Paleolithic hunter-gatherers at Taforalt Cave in Morocco found that plants, not meat, were their primary source of dietary protein, upending the old assumption that ancient diets were built around big game kills. That doesn't mean meat is rare on your menu. It means it's not the backbone of it the way the myth assumes. Lesser known fact, Neanderthal plant intake is estimated at roughly 20% of total diet, similar to other Stone Age groups, meaning meat and animal products still made up the majority of calories, just not from the dramatic predator versus mammoth hunts people picture. When meat did show up, it mostly came from large plant-eating animals like mammoth and rhinoceros, rather than anything more exotic. The mismatch isn't meat versus plants. It's occasional big kills versus constant small-scale gathering, and your job leans hard on the second half of that equation every single day. Your actual daily inventory looks something like this: nuts, seeds, berries, roots, wild greens, the occasional fish, and meat whenever the hunters actually connect. Beyond hunting, gathering does the heavy lifting. Plants, lichen, fungi, birds' eggs, shellfish, whatever the season hands you. Fruit is real fruit. Apples, grapes, figs, plums, pears have been part of the picture for tens of thousands of years, just smaller and sour than what's in a modern grocery store. Vegetables are the disappointing part of the job. Ancient tomatoes were the size of berries. Wild potatoes were no bigger than peanuts. You are not cooking with abundance. You are cooking with scraps that took all morning to collect. This is also why fermentation exists in your toolkit, and it's not a fancy technique. It's damage control. Burying meat or fish and letting it sit is one of the oldest food preservation methods available to you, and it does double duty. It keeps food edible longer and pre-breaks it down, doing part of the job cooking would otherwise have to do, without needing fire at all. You've got a full basket of things to sort through before anyone eats. Time to find out what's actually safe. Here's the part of the job where confidence is the most dangerous ingredient in camp. Foraging looks simple from the outside. See something green, eat it, and that assumption is exactly how people end up with a stomachache on a good day and organ failure on a bad one. Your entire value as a chef comes down to one rule. You only serve what you can positively identify, not what looks similar, not what smells fine. Positively identify every time, no exceptions. The dangerous part isn't the obviously bad stuff. Nobody eats the plant that looks like poison. The dangerous part is the lookalikes, the root that's nearly identical to something safe, the mushroom that shares almost every visible feature with one that will kill everyone at dinner. Your entire skill set is built around the small percentage that's different, and you'd better know it cold before anything reaches a fire. Meat brings its own version of the same problem. A carcass you didn't personally watch get killed is a carcass with an unknown history. How long it's been dead, what killed it, whether it's already starting to turn. Smell and appearance only tell you so much this early in the process. The real risk is invisible until someone's already eaten it. Your job is running a screening process the whole camp depends on without realizing it. Lesser known fact, this is precisely why fermentation and heavy cooking both show up so early in the archaeological record. It's not primarily about flavor. Heat and controlled rot are both ways of neutralizing exactly the kind of risk you're managing right now. Killing off what confidence alone can't catch. A plant that's borderline unsafe raw can sometimes be made survivable through the right preparation. A plant that's genuinely toxic stays toxic no matter what you do to it. Knowing which category something falls into before you commit fire and time to it is the actual skill. You reject 2 roots today. Nobody complains. Nobody has to know how close a call it actually was. The wins on this job are invisible. The only time anyone notices your work is the one time you get it wrong. No metal, no glazed clay, no open flame you can just set a pot over, because the pot doesn't exist yet either. This is where the job actually gets clever. Your workhorse setup isn't a single technique. It's 2 used for different jobs. For liquids, you go with rock boiling, heat a handful of small stones directly in the fire, then drop them one at a time into a hollowed piece of wood or a rock depression filled with water, moving them with a pair of green sticks, because your fingers have strong opinions about touching hot rocks. Enough hot stones cycled through and the water actually boils. For anything solid, root vegetables, cuts of meat, whole small game, you go a different direction entirely. Pit baking. Dig a shallow hollow, line it with heated stones, wrap or bury the food directly in the coals and ash, and cover it. It's imprecise. There's no timer, no thermometer, nothing but experience telling you when it's done. But it works, and it works on almost anything you hand it, which is exactly why versions of this method show up across nearly every hunter-gatherer culture ever studied, independently invented again and again with whatever local materials were available. Boiling and pit baking aren't just about convenience either. They're doing real chemistry. Raw roots often lock their stored energy away in a form your body barely accesses. Heat changes that. It unlocks the glucose trapped inside tubers and makes them genuinely digestible instead of just technically edible. Dental tartar recovered from Neanderthal remains shows direct evidence of heating food in the presence of water, meaning they were boiling roots specifically to make them worth eating. And the same trick shows up in South African hearths dating back more than 100,000 years. This wasn't a late invention. It was already standard practice deep into the Paleolithic. Lesser known fact, cooking with stone tools to prepare hunted and foraged food is one of the developments that let early humans extract meaningfully more energy from both plants and meat than they could raw. Some researchers connect this directly to the caloric demands of a larger brain. Your fire pit isn't a workaround for missing equipment. It's closer to the actual reason any of the rest of this works at all. Dinner's ready. Nobody died. Some nights, that's the entire performance review. Here's the twist nobody expects from this job. You're about to make bread and farming hasn't even happened yet. Charred remains recovered from Shubayqa 1 in Jordan's Black Desert show hunter-gatherers baking flatbread roughly 14,400 years ago, predating agriculture by at least 4,000 years. Nobody had planted anything. This was made entirely from gathered wild cereals, which makes it one of the clearest examples in the archaeological record of exactly the kind of cooking your whole job has been building toward. You start the same way they did. Grind wild grains, barley, einkorn, whatever grew nearby, between 2 stones repeatedly, until it's fine enough to actually behave like flour. This step is not quick. Microscopic analysis of the Shubayqa remains shows the grain had been ground, sieved, and reground multiple times, A genuinely laborious process for a group that could have just eaten the grains whole and saved themselves the entire afternoon. You mix the ground flour with water. Knead it into something that holds together. Press it flat and set it directly against a heated stone near the fire, letting the residual heat do the work slowly, rather than dropping it straight into open flame. Lesser known fact, the structure of the Shubayqa remains is close enough to later Neolithic and Roman era flatbreads that researchers identify it as genuine bread, not just cooked grain mush, and here's the detail that quietly rewrites the assumption most people have about farming. Some researchers now argue that the sheer effort required to make bread this way, gathering, grinding, sieving, baking, all for a modest amount of food, may have been part of what motivated people to start deliberately growing cereal crops instead of just gathering wild ones. It's not settled history, but it's a serious enough hypothesis that bread may belong somewhere near the start of the story of farming, not just somewhere after it. You pull your flatbread off the stone. It's dense, a little burnt at the edges, nothing like a bakery loaf. It's also the single most labor-intensive thing you've made all day, and everyone eats it in under 2 minutes. That's the whole job, condensed onto one plate. Hours of grinding, testing, boiling, baking, gone in the time it takes someone to decide it's good. 4 chapters. The menu, where mammoth steak turned out to be the least accurate part of the whole diet. The lookalikes, where the job was really about what you refused to serve. The kitchen you don't have, where hot stones handled both the pot and the oven that wouldn't exist for thousands of years. And the dish where bread showed up before farming did, because someone was willing to grind grain by hand for an afternoon just to make something better. Every meal that didn't kill anyone, every grain ground into flour, every root boiled instead of eaten raw, none of it left a name behind. It left something better, a species that's still here to tell the story. If this one didn't poison you, see if the next video does.